Daniel Ek wants you to believe that music costs close to zero.
You are a struggling artist because you have listeners, not fans.
Music doesn't cost $0 to create. It just costs Spotify $0 for you to create it.
DIY.
Okay, DIYers, over the last week, we had a new video from Joe Budden as he sat down with someone whose name has been in the music spaces and the internet spaces in terms of streaming very frequently. Larry Jackson. We've done reaction videos on Larry Jackson where he shared a podium with Snoop and Snoop talked about how unfair the streaming payouts were. So Larry Jackson is a prominent figure in the music industry, known for his innovative approach and influential role in the digital music space. He has worked with some of the biggest names in the industry and has held significant positions at major companies. Notably, he served as the global creative director at Apple Music, where he played a key role in shaping the platform's artist partnership and overall strategy. He is now the head of a new platform that a lot of artists have a lot of questions about, in Gamma, as Gamma seems to be parading around and saying that they are the new independent. They're parading around and they're saying that they have a new approach to streaming. People have a lot of questions, including myself, because they haven't been very transparent about what that actually means. You should watch the whole video. It's a pretty good interview. Joe Budden and Larry Jackson at the conversation about streaming.
How significant, did you pay attention at all to the actor strike?
I did, yeah, very much so.
And the writer strike?
Yeah, we were affected by it because we were in the middle of producing the music for The Color Purple at that time. Yeah.
I feel like that was such a great example and demonstration for the artists in the music business. And I can never understand why we didn't attempt to mimic that, like for what they were fighting for, which is how AI will be a part of this. They were fighting for streaming rights. Like, with the streaming splits the way that they are, why aren't more people fighting that fight? And do you ever see it changing? Like, as someone that purchases music, it's tough for me to champion streaming, even though I know that is how music is consumed today. It's just tough to champion that when we get 0.0000 whatever the number is that we get.
Well, with paid tiers, like Spotify Premium or Amazon paid tier or Apple's paid tier, it's a penny per play. But the plays are their plays are so voluminous that when you add them up in the aggregate sense, it is real money, you know, if you're really streaming, right? And I'm not here to defend. I don't work for a streaming service any longer, so, you know, I think my perspective is pretty neutral. We've moved from a transaction economy to a consumption economy. And the transaction economy was like, okay, I buy your CD, I take it home, you have no way to quantify how much if I even took the wrapper off of it to even listen to it, or if I did, how many times I played it, right? And in the consumption economy, you can see that and you can quantify that, and it's always something that will continue to throw off, because if I go and play Pump It Up tonight, but I bought the cassette single or the CD single in 2002 for $2.99 or whatever they were charging at that particular point in time, that's a one-time transaction.
I always hear this argument when folks are talking about or championing the advantages that streaming brings. And I think a lot of people think I'm anti-streaming because I remove my music from streaming, but no, I'm pro-independence, I'm pro-direct-to-consumer. And I always hear this argument. I heard Yo Gotti make this argument about how if you buy someone's album one time, that artist doesn't get any more money based upon how many times you play that CD, that physical album. They don't get any more money off of that, which is why they say streaming is such an advantage, because you can make money for a lifetime, forever money, as some people may put it.
Hi, I'm Toothless, the editor. Let's do some quick math to see if what Larry Jackson is saying makes any sense. Spoiler, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. Let's say, for example, you're selling one song for $2. It'll take about 500 streams for you to make $2. That means a single person would have to stream your song every day for more than a year for you to make $2 from them. But Toothless, if I find a song that I like, I listen to it more than once. I listen to Not Like Us like 5 times a day. Fair enough. But even if they listen to your song 5 times a day, it'll still take 3 months for you to make $2 from that one person. But wait, remember Larry said if you're really streaming, there's real money in it. But because you're getting just a fraction of a penny, you're still only getting a fraction of what's possible compared to if you had just sold your music directly to the audience. Do you think 2 million monthly leads in a business is worth the same as 2 million streams? It's not. So yes, it is a steady stream of income, but the stream fits to a straw. Back to the video.
I got my vinyl back here. And the way that I consume this vinyl, I already got this project on many different devices. But the fact that it sits up there, it gives me an opportunity to have a consistent flow of promotion. Every single time somebody sees that, another question goes in their mind about, hey, you know what? This is actually a advertising trigger for me to now go listen to Curtis King, or an excuse to go listen to Curtis King. And I think that in the same way that you'll have a bunch of different car dealerships in your neighborhood, the one that you get a pin from, or the insurance company that you get a pin from, seems to have a way of sticking in your brain. Now, when you buy the physical, especially in this day and age, it is such a unique purchase that it separates you from a lot of other people who can only be found on these platforms. So I understand what he's saying. Now, the second part of this is, I don't know if he's going to get to answering the question directly from Joe about this unionizing and seeing the actors come together and fight for better rights in the face of AI, in the face of unfair wages. But I've always had this issue with the idea of a union for artists and music producers and singers and songwriters. I feel like the needs that someone has in the traditional industry, the major label record business, are very, very different from the independent and the music business that an artist like myself is in.
How many ever other people listen to it? You can continue to eat off of that in perpetuity if you're recouped, of course. The one thing I will say that I think the streaming services music streaming services, DSPs, get a really bad rap for is keeping all the money. You know, they pay out. Spotify is just starting to turn a profit after many years as a business.
I hate to interrupt you, Larry Jackson, because I know that you're someone who is very well versed in this space, but I think it's unfortunate that bringing up the profit that Spotify is making is happening around the same time we get familiar with names like Johann Rohr.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
When, shout out to my homegirl Kayla Love, we're familiar that there are artists on Spotify right now called ghost artists. Now, why is it problematic to have a Johann Rohr? Johann Rohr is a composer who just so happens to be in the same place as Spotify in Sweden. He's a composer that has over 650 fake profiles. And collectively, all the streams under these fake profiles, because they're different artist names, have more streams than Michael Jackson, ABBA, and a lot of other people. But he's able to do that, and there's no issue. Second thing, these ghost artists that are out here, they're now having their music websites generated by AI. They're now showing up here and collecting royalties. The only issue is that if it's an AI artist, an AI generated music, and it's being allowed to exist while other people are having their music taken down off of Spotify, it's safe to assume that Spotify is able to pocket that. How else are they able to pay a Joe Rogan $250 million to extend his podcast contract unless you're making some chili somewhere else? The fuck? Now, here's the biggest issue with that. Spotify has a pie system, meaning that they don't pay you based upon your amount of streams individually. No. There's a cap on the amount of money that is being divvied up. This becomes problematic when you now have ghost artists that are starting to eat up that money, and we don't know where this shit leads to. That shit could lead back to Daniel Ek bald-head ass. We wouldn't know that because they're not transparent about anything.
I mean, that's a long time to be in business to really just be turning that corner. Why is that the case? Because the lion's share of the money is paid out to the rights holders. They're not making all the money. They wish that they could. That's why they diversified and brought you in. To break up time spent listening on the platform.
Yeah.
So that, you know what I'm saying.
Try to pull a move, yeah.
Yeah.
I get
it's
it.
just like,
had to get from up under that.
Yeah, let's move some of this TSL somewhere else. The advertising revenue will come in from that. And we can diversify our interests here in that particular way.
Well, you're talking now.
I get it.
For the people out there that don't understand, right? Like when Spotify started their podcasting business, it was a way for them to let labels know, hey, it's not music. So we're splitting this up. And what happened from there is above my pay grade.
You can go watch the interview. There's a lot of things that he says and he doesn't say about what Gamma represents and who it's actually for, but it seems like they're positioning themselves to be not only a distributor, but also sort of a home for artists like a Rick Ross, where he'll be able to not only sign a licensing deal with them, but he'll also be able to launch his podcast and monetize it through their system, which is super dope for them. Ain't got shit to do with us independent artists. With that said, I want to draw your attention over to a few posts from my guy, Lloyd Lang, who is always dropping so much amazing knowledge. Matter of fact, we had him on here as a guest, and man, the amount of gems that he gave us was ridiculous. This was a news story that popped up. Bots now account for half of global internet traffic, and bad bots nearly are 1/3.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Read it slower. Bots, not human beings, but bots, computer bots, now account for half of the global internet traffic. Now, the bad bots being used for whatever reasons they're being used occupies nearly 1/3. And you know what's funny? As we come back to this conversation about dumbass Spotify, I have questions about, well, how many bots are actually on Spotify? Since you guys are still removing people's music on a regular basis, it must have a lot of bot action on there. What if it's not these godforsaken artists who are just buying bots and trying to get a bunch of streams on their platform? They still haven't answered that question. How many bots are there? Me and Lloyd Lang had a great conversation, and one of the things that we talked about was, okay, running with this idea that Spotify is full of bots. I asked him, I said, could that be the reason why they tell you you have 200,000 listeners and not fans? One of those will be very misleading, that being fans. But bots can be listeners. So, Lloyd Lang says you are a struggling artist because you have listeners, not fans.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Oh, hold up. He's still cooking. He's still cooking. Now, I have been pushing. I've been telling y'all consistently. Matter of fact, we did an amazing webinar the other day with my homegirl, Kayla Love, about this. Direct-to-consumer is the future for us as independent artists. It's the right now. Get on that shit right now. What's going to happen is that as you're building your direct-to-consumer business, which is basically you hosting your own music, distributing your own physical music, basically out the trunk, but out the house, or wherever you're doing your music, right? Everything I do in terms of my performances, in terms of my merch, in terms of my music itself, the mixing and mastering, the packaging, the designing, all is done in this house. If you did 1 million streams a month, ladies and gentlemen, you would only make $4,000. And you'd have to do it every single month. Lloyd Lang expands upon this when he says one superfan is worth more than 1,000 streams. One. That's how I was able to have 140 people pay over $4,000 for one of my projects in the last few months. That's what this is all about. You know, I said a lot of things, and I was called a lot of things in the process too. One thing you're not going to call me is a liar. Here on an article on Music Business Worldwide, it seems like not only are artists fighting back these unfair payments from these streaming platforms, but there's other entities, there's other countries that are also getting involved in it. Did you see this news? Music streaming services come out swinging against Canada, who has a new discriminatory tax that requires streaming platforms to hand over 5% of their Canadian revenues. Ooh.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Up, Spotify, you're gonna have to bot some more to make that to pay that off. Music streaming services are criticizing a new regulation in Canada that requires major streaming services to pay 5% of their revenue to various groups supporting the creation of Canadian content. Streaming is the main source of revenue and engine of growth for music in Canada, benefiting the industry, creators, fans, and consumers. And this is effectively a protectionist subsidy for radio, says Graham Davies of DEMA. Among the other affected platforms are Netflix and Disney. So it's not just the streaming platforms in terms of just music, but Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play Music on the audio side. You know, when these type of things happen, right? We did a story about the bill they're trying to pass to basically guarantee that artists are able to make at least a penny off of their streams. These things take time. And of course, the moment a law gets involved, head asses like Daniel Ek start to cook in on other things, investing their money in things like AI weapons. It's not even alleged. That was the actual headline. Investing in AI body scanning, as we learned from Kayla Love. The fuck is going on in your bald ass head?
Boy, what you telling me? Speaking dirt on my name, that's a felony.
Man, I'm player of the year, Bill Bellamy. Man, I know you ain't tryna make a bet of me. So what you telling me? So what you telling me? 20 years and I still ain't gon' bow out. I've been rapping since Shake Moss was Bow Wow. Bitch, I'm player of the game, I don't foul out. Man, this year, boy, I'm really about to wild out. Who you finna call out? Full court press at the bank till I ball out. I feel like a professor, but where that nigga Charles at? Grinding all day, I ain't even need a hard hat. Finna hit the tarmac, I mean the pavement. Do I really gotta come and make a statement? You know there's people willing to sue to lose your patience, but I'd rather lick a stamp and make a payment. Man, let's get back to this paper. I'm so grateful. Man, I feel electrified like I'm raiding. I paid dues, but I ain't made it. I still remember trying to burn CDs out of Staples. So what you telling me?
Apparently a lot of bullshit's going on in his head. Did you see this article? Daniel Ek is at it again. On Music Tech, they go on to report that Daniel Ek said this really questionable. He had a really questionable tweet that came out, and we need to dig into this. Spotify CEO Daniel Ek claims the cost of making content is close to zero. Internet outrage ensues. Yeah, I think so. But let's hear him out. Talk about disconnected. This is the guy you're allowing to make decisions about what you get paid on his platform. Here's his platform, but what your artist worth, you gonna let him decide that? He says, today, with the cost of creating content being close to zero, says who? Nigga, these cameras cost money. You wanna pay for that? These editors cost money. You wanna pay for them? CapCut has a subscription that I need to keep up. The Pro account, you wanna pay for that? Vegas Pro that I also use has a subscription. Hey, if I wanna have quality audio, this shit costs money. The fuck is he talking about? People can share an incredible amount of content. This has sparked my curiosity about the concept of long shelf life versus short shelf life. This nigga thought he was cooking. While much of what we see and hear quickly becomes obsolete, there are timeless ideas or even pieces of music that can remain relevant for decades or even centuries. Oh, this nigga's spitting. For example, we're witnessing a resurgence of Stoicism, with many of Marcus Aurelius' insights still resonating thousands of years later. This makes me wonder, what are the most unintuitive yet enduring ideas that are frequently discussed today, but might have a long shelf life? This nigga wrote this shit. This bald head walking around in his drawers eating. This nigga eats Raisin Bran. But this last line is the shit that had me scratching my head the most. Also, what are we creating now that will be valued and discussed hundreds of thousands of years from today? What? Why is the person, the CEO of a company that has encouraged artists to increase their output of music on his platform, that has said on the record that if you take 3 to 4 years as an artist because you care about your craft and your quality to make one album, you're going to struggle on my platform. For someone who has encouraged a ridiculous amount of quantity to come from these artists at the sacrifice of quality, is now telling you, what are we creating that can still be valued and discussed hundreds of thousands of years from today? Well, definitely not the music that is being made because of your fucking algorithms. Out of touch. What are you doing here? You know, there's been a lot of reactions to this ridiculous ass statement, but this Dr. Evil head ass, listen to what my guy Gino, songwriter, super dope songwriter, credited. You got to check out what he says here in reaction to this Daniel Ek questionable tweet.
Daniel Ek tweeted, today, with the cost of creating content being close to zero, people can share an incredible amount of content. Content being music. Of course, the guy profiting hundreds of millions of dollars quarterly off the backs of the artists who built his platform by devaluing art has no fucking idea how expensive it is to make.
So I was assuming he meant content in the sake of content in the traditional sense of like videos like this or videos like I'm creating right now, reaction content. But if he was talking about music being content,
a cartoonishly evil supervillain, overlooking the substantial investment in time that it takes to make music, resources, production, and promotion.
Come on.
This is the perspective from the guy that controls how music is consumed. Music doesn't cost $0 to create. It just costs Spotify $0 for you to create it.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth and I'm gonna
He did not lie. DIYers, do you realize what's happening? Do you realize what's happening? Do you realize what's happening? These head asses are going to get you off of this platform one way or another. Either you leave, like a lot of artists are right now. There's an exodus off of Spotify that's not being talked about. And I think a part of me feels like Spotify wants this to happen. They want this to happen so that they're able to run more experiments with AI to make up for the gap that you created. And they never delete profiles off of their platform. So I think they want a mass exodus. And if you don't want to leave, say you still want to sit in there and you want to squat a little bit, well, they'll get rid of you for fictitious streams that they have to produce no evidence that you even had. They just get to send it through your distributor. Artists, think about this, because I'm talking to you. You're paying for a service like a DistroKid, like a TuneCore. You're paying for the opportunity. Excuse me, no, fuck that. For the service to distribute your music. Don't you think that you should be given some evidence, some undeniable evidence of why this service you're paying for is not being delivered the way that you need it to? Shouldn't you think at the bare minimum that's what you deserve? I do, which is the reason why I had to get my ass up off of streaming.
It cost them $0 to create all the AI music that they create and put on playlists and push through their algorithm. They make 100% of the profits of those songs,
Damn.
which dilute the royalty pool even more. Daniel Ek wants you to believe that music costs close to zero to create, so he can justify devaluing music to be worth close to zero, as he profits hundreds of millions of dollars every quarter. Music is only valuable when he can profit off of it, not when you create it. It's not valuable when you consume it. It's only valuable when it comes to the shareholders.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Daniel Ek talking this way right now is crazy. To me, it's like somebody in broad daylight passing out drugs. Passing out drugs, ain't nobody gonna get bothered with it, right? Because the whole city is a shit show. People pirating on this side of the street. People over here acting crazy on this side of the street. The money is starting to go down. People are moving out. It's just getting crazy. Daniel Ek walked through the streets and said, little drugs for you, drugs for you. He puts sprinkling crack. Yes, Vin, he's sprinkling like Salt Bay. Then he turns around and says, why are there so many crackheads on this street? You know what we need to do? We need to figure out how to solve this issue. You're part of the problem, and now you're trying to act like you're part of the solution. What the fuck are we doing? What are you doing? What is going on in that bald ass head of yours? There are people who are really trying to make a living doing what they love. It should not be this difficult. I say all this, DIYers, not to rile you up for no reason. I say this to say a renaissance is happening. I've been saying this. And every single week that this fuckery goes on, good news seems to follow. Especially when it's artists as influential as Eminem. Did you see this? Regardless of how you felt about this new Eminem song, it's a fun song. It's classic, Slim Shady type antics. He put out this tweet in preparation of this album coming out on May 31st. He said, I'm about to reach in my bag, bruh. Pre-order the digital album in the next 7 days to get 2 exclusive bonus tracks you can only get on shop.eminem.com. Now, traditionally, an artist would have used, say, a Spotify pre-save campaign to distribute this. No. You know what Eminem said? Let's go direct to consumer. Matter of fact, I don't even got an album cover. Look at it. He don't even got an album cover right now. But this is his website. And as you can see here, you can buy The Death of Slim Shady, exclusive digital album and bonus tracks for $12.99 pre-order directly from his website, aka direct to consumer.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, and I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. Something's happening. And not just because the white rapper did it. A change is coming because there's a lot of independent artists doing it. Look, Kanye did it with his last project. Yeet even did it with his last project. These are major names that are going direct to consumer from their websites. Now, this is not to leave out anybody, but it's only really to include people who have not traditionally been seen as direct to consumer artists. Guess who else is? Shout out my guy LaRussell one time, man. We had an opportunity to interview him some months back. You can watch that video here on the channel. But LaRussell made a huge announcement. And it was a little bit surprising to be honest with you, because when I interviewed him, some of you guys might remember, it was kind of a funny part in the interview we did where I was telling him I'm removing my music from streaming. I'm like, bro, I'm inspired by you taking back your ownership. And he was like, you taking your music off of streaming? He just started cracking up. He like, oh, bro, what have I done? He like, man, you got to put your shit back up. And I was kind of embarrassed a little bit. I was like, oh shit. I mean, I'm standing on business. I'm standing on business. I don't care, but that's kind of crazy. Nonetheless, even though he disagreed with the move, I got a call from him a few months ago. The details of that, none of your business. But just know, he said, I'm starting to see what you're seeing, Curtis. Which is why it's beautiful to see his direct-to-consumer push right now. Here's the official announcement from him.
To my community, today is a special day, monumental in my journey. We're starting our own subscription service, and it's offer-based. You can pay whatever you want to pay a month. As y'all know, I don't own Spotify, YouTube, or any of that, so I really wanted to build my own home and my own space and community where my art is cultivated. We put out so much content, I put 2,000 videos on YouTube, and it's time to build my own home.
Let's go.
So I dumped 200 unreleased songs in this folder, and that's just the start. Y'all could go through it, and it's references of songs I've written for other people and things I've done with producers that are like crazy. I just dumped everything in there for y'all to play with. We're going to be having Free Game Fridays and strolls and all the rest of the shows from tour. Everything that we do is basically going to be coming here now, you know. Instead of me going straight to YouTube and Spotify and everybody else's home and putting my furniture there, I'm going to build it in my own home.
Let's go.
You can pay whatever you want a month to have access to it. You know, all I ask is that my community comes and cultivate with us. You can pay $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever you want your contribution to do to be towards evolution and revolution, man. We building something special, and I really want y'all to be a part of it.
Shout out to him.
It's a waiting list link in my bio, and we just want to see what the demand is like for something like that, and we're going to open up, and, you know, it's going to have its own live stream portal and chat and everything, so we just growing it. But right now, I just dropped 200 songs in there, and y'all going to have access to all of that shit. You heard?
Supremely proud of that dude, man. Like peer-to-peer, man. Shout out to you for doing what you're doing. The Russell, that's huge. That is huge news. And it's showing you a pattern that is happening, DIYers. It is showing you this direct-to-consumer is happening. There's no stopping this direct-to-consumer that's happening. You know, it's important that you guys recognize, even those of you that are just getting started, a lot of people are scared. They're nervous. They're like, man, y'all got platforms. Y'all already got people. What you got to understand is this. It's all work, and it all takes time. And if folks like he and I, if folks like the people who have established platforms to sell their things to, because people still have to make the decision to buy from you. They're not going to buy a shitty product just because you got a large following. There's still work that needs to be involved. Don't you think it's more important for you to get familiar with this way of doing business now than to wait until everybody jumps on the train, until everybody is now putting up their own shop? Here's the thing that I'm recognizing though. A lot of people talk down about direct-to-consumer and they make excuses why it might have worked for somebody like me, even though I am predominantly a solopreneur, especially in the music space. Like I got a lot of independent freelancers I work with producer-wise, but I mix my own stuff. I make my own graphic art. I edit my own content, my own lyric videos. I do all of this stuff, and I don't do it just to say that I do it. I do it because I want to see it get done. If I had just a team of 3 or 4 more people, financially, that 11,000 could have easily been 30 or 40,000. And I don't mind going slow, as long as we're moving in the right direction. So I implore you, DIYers, if you don't have an audience and you're worried about, oh, should I even do this? Yes, if you want to do business, if you want to do this as a hobby, keep up with your hobby. Stop watching my videos though. Like, unless you're just here for the entertainment, stop watching my videos though. But if you yourself are serious as an artist and there's other people around you that are serious about their craft, you probably should jump on ASAP, like yesterday, and learn as much as you can about what it requires for you to set a solid foundation to go direct to consumer. Nobody's telling you to go the route that I did and leave streaming. Nobody's saying that. But don't you think that if it's a business that it's going to take you years to figure out how, for some of you, it's going to take you years to figure out how to turn that profit, how to flip everything, how to sell properly, how to package properly, how to perform properly, all these different things that are needed for your brand, because your brand is building in real time. But why wait? Matter of fact, I even will go a step further and say you won't get an audience if you don't understand how to do it now. The habits that I had last year, for people who follow this YouTube channel, I didn't have 1,000-something people in my live streams last year. But anybody will tell you who was here from last year, any of my moderators will tell you, I am doing the same work that I was doing. I'm better at it. I'm doing the same work I was doing last year when I had 40 people in here. So if I don't care how large my audience is, my audience was still 230,000. I have 40 people in my live streams last year. The difference is, as Will Smith said one time, if you get on the treadmill and I get on the treadmill, I'm not going to lose. I'm going to die before I get off this treadmill. And that's the same way that I feel about this direct-to-consumer. That's how I feel about supporting my family. That's how I feel about doing all the work that I'm doing right now. And I'm seeing so many of my peers, so many folks that I've never met that are starting to jump on board and do their own version of it. Good, because we need new people to bring new solutions. We keep relying upon these tech head asses to figure something out. We're going to have problems and we're going to always be slave to their subscription. Every other business has figured out some kind of subscription model, from your Waves plugins to clothing brands that'll send you outfits already put together in the side of a box, to shaving, to I got one with Scentbird and I'll be smelling good as shit. Scentbird with the cologne, like there's a subscription for everything. If you see yourself as a business, why the hell would you not be next? So, DIYers, those are my thoughts. Direct to consumer is happening. What are your thoughts? DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.